Well done, by the way. There you go.
Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call to order the meeting of the Board of Directors for the School District for the City of Allentown for today, September 23rd, 2021. Prior to tonight's meeting, an executive session was held to discuss confidential and legal matters. As always, the board welcomes and invites public comment. You may address the board on agenda items and/or non-agenda items. The first opportunity for comments at the beginning of the meeting are limited to agenda items. If you choose to address the board, please fill out a comment card if you haven't already and hand it to Mr. Sickett. They are located near the podium, near the door. Once recognized at that time, we'll ask you to please come to the podium and you'll have 3 minutes to make your remarks. Mr. Secretary, can you please call the roll?
Ms. Brace,
Here.
Ms. Conover,
Present.
Ms. Harris,
Here.
Ms. Johnson Watts,
Here.
Ms. Matheson,
Here.
Mr. Miller,
Here.
Mr. Thiel, Ms. Vega,
Here.
Ms. Wilt,
Here.
9 board members are present.
Thank you very much. At this time, you're way ahead of me, Ms. Ramos. If everyone could please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silence. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
And to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Chair is very short. I would just like to take a moment to thank everyone who's here with us this evening and watching us on YouTube as we begin our regular board meeting. I had written myself some remarks, but I think they're at home on my coffee table, so I'm going to do my best to remember everything that I wanted to say. But I want to just lead by thanking not only the staff of ASD, teachers, administrators, and everyone, but the families and our students as we round out September and head into October. I want to thank you all for doing what you have been able to do to keep our kids learning, whether they chose to be virtual or those that chose to come and be in-person learning. I want to thank everyone who's done their part to allow our kids to have the experience that they're choosing. I just know that it's been a very significant undertaking throughout the last 18 months, but more importantly over the summer in preparing and getting us through this first month of school. So I just wanted to let you know that your efforts are recognized and appreciated. Thank you very much. Ms. Ramos, do you have any remarks?
I do not.
Okay. At this time, Mr. Secretary, are there any individuals who'd like to address the board?
Sean Kerbin.
Good evening. Sean Kerbin, 1478 Willowbrook Drive, Bethlehem, PA. I am a librarian at Jefferson Elementary School. Tonight, you will read into the board minutes the obituary and recognition of Carolyn Miller, a longstanding teacher at Jefferson Elementary. And I've sat through a couple of these over the past year, and they are heartfelt and wonderful, but they are not the person. And I wanted to say something about Carolyn Miller even though I had only worked with her about 7 years. And I got some of my other colleagues to say something as well. So I'm going to read some of those. Carolyn and I were not close. It's very hard to be close when only half your time is spent in that building. But Carolyn and I shared a love of books, a love of reading, and obviously the love of library. And she taught her kids about books and reading and to love books and to love the library. And she gave books away almost weekly to every one of her children, which was amazing. Ellen Crowell, the art teacher, said she had a big heart. She just wanted her kids to have the very best possible second grade they could. She was an extraordinarily caring teacher. Miss Walthier, one of the first grade teachers, said she was in it for the kids, and she worked hard to include everyone up to the point where she would use sign language so that her ELL kids and the rest of the kids would have a common ground and would be able to communicate. Josie McPhillips said she always thought of her students. She took medical leave at the beginning of this year so that her kids, if something happened, would not have an interrupted education. And the best thing that was said was that Carolyn may not have been the flashiest teacher or the smiliest teacher, but once you got to know her, that didn't matter. She was just really good, and we will miss her, and her students will miss her. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That's it? Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, Sean. At this time, we are at the point of our agenda where I would ask that we have approval of the minutes. So if I may have a motion. So move. Ms. Conover, is there a second? Mr. Thiel? Is there any discussion? Seeing and hearing none, can you please call the roll?
Ms. Conover,
Yes.
Ms. Harris,
Yes.
Ms. Johnson Watts,
Yes.
Matheson,
Yes.
Mr. Miller,
Yes.
Mr. Thiel, Ms. Vega,
Yes.
Ms. Wilt,
Yes.
Ms. Brace,
Yes.
9-0 minutes pass.
Thank you very much. Brings us to the point in our meeting where we do informational updates. So Ms. Vega, you're up first with the Allentown Human Relations Commission.
Yes, very exciting. October 2nd, the Allentown Human Relations Banquet Dinner. So I encourage everyone here to reach out and join that evening. Many wonderful people who have been putting in a lot of their own volunteer time into the community are being acknowledged. It's going to be an amazing event. That's where we're at right now.
Thank you very much, Linda. Ms. Vega, sorry. Allentown Public Library, Ms. Harris, Ms. Johnson Watts.
I wasn't able to attend. Ms. Johnson, were you able to attend? I was not able to attend. There is no minute.
Okay, thank you very much. Ms. Brace, you have a report for us on the Parks and Rec?
Sure do. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. They gave you an overview of the fall activities that will be in the city. They're going to have King of the Court, flag football, soccer clinics, and pickleball clinics for youth. Pickleball clinics are for adults as well, if you're interested. The Jordan Skate Park, there were some cement problems, so the opening was delayed. They're hoping to have it open by October 1st, and they're still looking for funding for phase 2. Irving Pool, they had to do a rebid. Valania Park, no bids were received, so they're issuing a rebid for that as well. And Jordan Pool, they're looking to start the request for proposals. And that's it.
Thank you very much. The School District Foundation did not meet last month. They're scheduled to meet in October, so there is no report there. Carbon High.
We had our meeting this week. We passed the intermediate units organizational goals. We added a new position called the Health Services Specialist, who's going to coordinate everything COVID related for the IU. And then they gave out the Annie Sullivan Award, it was given to two people this year who work to encourage the understanding and promotion of students with disabilities. One was to a supervisor, and that was Susan Gare Luciano, and the other was to an emotional support interventionist, and that was Timothy Whalen.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Brace. Lee Hart Carbon Career and Technical Institute. Ms. Matheson, Ms. Conover, or Ms. Johnson Watts?
Yes, we met yesterday, and the 50th celebration continues. The time capsule for the 50th anniversary event will take place on October 12th instead of the date mentioned earlier. It's been moved to October 12th. That's on site. There will be a virtual open house Tuesday, November 9th through November 11th. If you go to the LCTI website or Facebook page, you'll find more details there. And there's confirmation that the senior recognition night will take place Tuesday, May 31st at the PPL Center. There are new programs being developed, particularly animal sciences. They're going to begin with 20 to 25 12th graders, and that's going to begin as a dual enrollment with LTRI-C's Vet Tech program, which has been it's been in existence for 3 years at this point. There's a high demand for vet techs and doctors, and so this is a great opportunity for students, but this is going to be a test year. So if a student is interested, they should attend the open house to learn more and find out more about the application process. The equity initiative that is part of the strategic plan is going forward. Right now, they surveyed staff and came up with a list of necessities that may be handled by a $25 per student allocation, such as lab materials and other items that are important parts of the student's experience. So far, it's been well received, and those items will be reviewed and updated. There is a student who has published a book. She graduated last year, and she's got a book out called Plumber Page. And it's a positive occurrence for young women considering working in plumbing and construction. And the one-on-one initiative is going forward, and computers are being distributed to all of our students.
Thank you very much. Is there anything else no? Okay, thank you very much. That brings us to the Safety Task Force. Ms. Conover, Ms. Harris? Okay, and then that brings us to our final, which is the citywide, or the City Youth Initiative, Ms. Harris?
We did not have a meeting this month, but the city council did approve the 8 youth members for the board.
Very good. Thank you very much. Will there be a reception or anything at how? Oh,
Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely. You know,
Great. Thank you very much. All right, that is the end of our informational updates and brings us to the point in our agenda where we're at the Board of Directors report. I would like to ask that we separate out Exhibit A and ask that Mr. Haggard, our Board Secretary, read the obituary into the minutes for us.
It's with sincere regret and deep sorrow that we record the death of Carolyn R. Miller on September 19th, 2021. In recognition thereof, the Board of Directors submits the following obituary minute and resolution. Whereas Carolyn R. Miller was a faithful and devoted employee of the Allentown School District for almost 22 years, and whereas in her position as a second grade teacher at Jefferson Elementary, she carried out her duties in a caring and professional manner, and whereas she treated colleagues, other staff, and students with a cheerful attitude and willingness to help, and whereas she exhibited passionate commitment to the education of students, and whereas she provided the students of Jefferson Elementary School with a pleasant and encouraging learning environment, And whereas her passing is marked by a deep sense of loss across the district, be it resolved that the Board of Directors take note of the untimely death of this faithful employee by causing this obituary minute and resolution to be spread upon the permanent minutes of the board this 23rd day of September 2021, with a copy to be sent to her bereaved family. Respectfully submitted, Nancy Wilt, President, Nicholas Miller, Vice President, Sarah Jane Brace, Lisa A. Conover, Phoebe D. Harris, Cheryl L. Johnson Watts, Audrey Matheson, Charles F. Field, Linda Vega.
May I have a motion to accept the obituary? So moved, Miss, and seconded, moved by Ms. Matheson, seconded by Ms. Conover. Is there any discussion or comment? I would just like to extend my sincere condolences, not only to her family, but to everyone whose life she's touched, who's hurting today and will be for some time. I thank Sean for sharing the comments she did in public comment to allow us to get a glimpse into the woman that this teacher was. With that, can you please call the roll?
Ms. Harris,
Yes.
Ms. Johnson Watts,
Yes.
Ms. Matheson,
Yes.
Mr. Miller,
Yes.
Mr. Thiel, Ms. Vega,
Yes.
Ms. Wilt,
Yes.
Ms. Brace,
Yes.
Ms. Conover.
Yes.
9-0 passes.
Thank you. I would ask at this time to have a motion for the remainder of the Board of Directors report.
So moved.
Mr. Miller, is there a second? Mr. Thiel? Is there any discussion on the Board of Directors? Oh, before I do, yes. Point of order for me, since I went out of order, Solicitor Sultanic. Now that there's a motion on the table, I neglected to tell you what I said that I would do, which is ask you for a brief explanation.
Yes. In the board report, you will see a somewhat unusual action for the district in electing a new successor superintendent to the school district. And superintendents under Pennsylvania law are elected officials, so that is why the motion is framed as a motion to elect Dr. John D. Stanford as the next superintendent for the Allentown School District. The action itself is twofold. It appoints Dr. Stanford to act in a consulting capacity for the time period of October 11th, 2021 to November 12th, 2021 to prepare him for the transition to the superintendency by engaging in a number of preliminary activities prerequisite to him becoming superintendent, and having him ready to start literally running in that capacity effective November 15, 2021. During the time period of his consultancy, which is a 1-month time period, he will be earning $884.61 per day as a consultant on behalf of the district. The balance of the motion to elect involves his election in accordance with the school code as a superintendent, and under Pennsylvania law, superintendents can be elected for a term of 3 to 5 years. Dr. Stanford will be serving a term commencing officially on November 15th, 2021 and ending on June 30, 2026. And that is a contingent upon him having the prerequisite letters of eligibility from the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. Dr. Stanford's compensation will be based on an annualized basis, a compensation of $230,000 per year during the 21-22 school year. Since he's not going to be working a full year, that compensation would be prorated. And his compensation is based upon that amount and can be increased in future years by the base Act 1 index of 2006 that the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania has passed, that is tied to the statewide average weekly wage and the employment cost index for secondary schools, with a minimum not to exceed 3.5% annually. There are extensive provisions in the documentation regarding how his performance will be analyzed, his goals and expectations for the upcoming year. And in addition, it also establishes his benefits, which will be tied to the Act 93 compensation plan for our school administrators during that time period. So based upon the foregoing, it is, I believe, the pleasure of the school board to recommend that Dr. Stanford fulfill the role of incoming superintendent. And I would also like to say that the board, as part of this process, will still rely very heavily on Jennifer Ramos, who has graciously agreed to act in the capacity as acting superintendent, and she will be fulfilling that role through the close of business on November 14, 2021. And she has been working double time between her current position and the new position of acting superintendent, and probably will be celebrating on November 15, 2021.
We're finally going to get that drink.
So with that, I turn it back to you, President Wilt.
Thank you very much, Attorney Sultanic. There is a motion on the floor. I just want to encompass that the motion not only is for motion E, which is what Attorney Sultanic just addressed, but also our collective bargaining units with our paras and an agreement with Act 93, as well as a motion regarding transportation for our students to and from LCTI, LTRIC, et cetera. So those are the remaining motions from the Board of the Directors report that we will be voting on at this time. Is there any other discussion or questions? Seeing and hearing none, can you please call the roll?
Ms. Conover,
Yes.
Ms. Brace,
Yes.
Ms. Wilt,
Yes.
Ms. Vega,
Yes.
Mr. Thiel,
Yes.
Mr. Miller,
Yes.
Ms. Matheson,
Yes.
Ms. Johnson Watts,
Yes.
Ms. Harris.
Yes.
9-0, items B through E passes.
Thank you very much. At this time, I would like to pause and give Dr. Stanford the opportunity to approach the podium and make some remarks.
Madam President, Mr. Vice President, members of the Board of Directors, I really want to thank you all for this opportunity. I am humbled by your confidence in my ability to do this work, and it is an extreme honor to be appointed the next superintendent of Allentown School District. I have been impressed by this district and this community, not only in my research, but in conversation with you all during the process, and in conversation with my to become new colleagues on the administrative team over the past couple of days. There is no more important responsibility than educating the babies for the future. And I take that responsibility very seriously, because it is not only the foundation of this community, but it is literally the foundation of our nation. Education is a major, major part of our representative democracy in this country. A representative democracy depends on an educated community and an educated voter population to make the wise decisions of who is going to represent them when they vote for them. But it is also an important part of our economic system in this country, having a strong, educated workforce that will carry on the responsibility to have thriving, growing communities that they live in. And so, again, I want to thank you. I want to thank this community. I want to thank my wife, Robin, and my daughter, Nia, who were unable to join me due to commitments that they had back in Columbus. But I also want to thank all of the individuals who are a part of my extended family for their love and support and their commitment to me as I have made the journey to Allentown School District. So again, thank you all very much, and look forward to getting started.
Thank you very much, Dr. Stanford. Welcome. Before we move on, I just wanted to say to my colleagues, if when we're speaking, if we can make sure that we're leaning into our mics. We had a comment from people on that are watching us on YouTube that they're having a hard time. They weren't able to hear some of our informational updates. So just to be, I know my voice carries, but not everybody's does. So that brings us to the point in our meeting where we're at the policy report. So this evening, the policy report addresses I believe the 6 policies. I don't have them in front of me. 4, I'm sorry, that we moved forward from the committee of the whole meeting last Thursday. May I please have a motion for the policy report? For the approval. Ms. Conover, is there a second? Mr. Thiel, is there any discussion to the motion? Seeing and hearing none. Mr. Secretary, can you please call the roll?
Ms. Johnson Watts,
Yes.
Ms. Matheson,
Yes.
Mr. Miller,
Yes.
Mr. Thiel,
Yes.
Ms. Vega,
Yes.
Ms. Wilt,
Yes.
Ms. Brace,
Yes.
Ms. Conover,
Yes.
Ms. Harris.
Yes.
9-0, policy report passes.
Thank you very much. Next up is the Secretary and Treasurer's report. May I have a motion for approval of both the secretaries and treasuries? Mr. Thiel, is there a second? Mr.
second.
Miller? Is there any discussion to the motion? Seeing and hearing none, can you please call the roll?
Ms. Matheson,
Yes.
Mr. Miller,
Yes.
Mr. Thiel,
Yes.
Ms. Vega,
I'm sorry, this was the Secretary and Treasurer's report?
Yes.
No.
Ms. Wilt,
Yes.
Ms. Brace,
Yes.
Ms. Conover,
Yes.
Ms. Harris,
Yes.
Ms. Johnson Watts.
Yes.
8-1 passes.
Thank you very much. Next up is the Superintendent's report. Is there a motion for the approval?
So moved.
Mr. Miller, is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Thiel, is there any discussion? Seeing and hearing none, please call the roll.
Mr. Miller,
Yes.
Mr. Thiel,
Yes.
Ms. Vega,
Yes.
Ms. Wilt,
Yes.
Ms. Brace,
Yes.
Ms. Conover,
Yes.
Ms. Harris,
Yes.
Ms. Johnson Watts,
Yes.
Ms. Matheson.
Yes.
9-0 passes.
Thank you very much. That brings us to the point where we're at our personnel report. Is there Ms. Matheson?
So moved.
So moved. Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Thiel, is there any discussion?
Yes, I just want to highlight that people may see this report and not realize that there are vacancies at this time where we are still hiring. And we encourage everyone to go to the ASD, which is allentownsd.org website, and look at the positions that are available. We are also seeking bus drivers for first student. So please, you may see a lot of names, but also know that there are still many positions available.
Thank you very much, Ms. Johnson Watts. Is there any other discussion or questions? Seeing and hearing none, can you please call the roll?
Mr. Thiel,
Yes.
Ms. Vega, Ms. Wilt,
Yes.
Ms. Brace,
Yes.
Ms. Conover,
Yes.
Ms. Harris,
Yes.
Ms. Johnson Watts,
Yes.
Ms. Matheson,
Yes.
Mr. Miller,
Yes.
9-0 passes.
Thank you very much. Next up is the finance report. Is there Mr. Thiel, is there a second?
Lisa Conover.
Mrs. Conover, is there any discussion on the motion? Seeing and hearing none, please call the roll.
Ms. Vega.
Yes.
Ms. Wilt,
Yes.
Ms. Brace,
Yes.
Ms. Conover,
Yes.
Ms. Harris,
Yes.
Ms. Johnson Watts,
Yes.
Ms. Matheson,
Yes.
Mr. Miller,
Yes.
Mr. Thiel,
Yes.
9-0 passes.
Thank you very much. On to the building report. May I have a motion to approve the building report?
So moved.
Mr. Miller, is there a second? Mr. Thiel, is there any discussion? Seeing and hearing none, please call the roll.
Ms. Wilt,
Yes.
Ms. Brace,
Yes.
Ms. Conover,
Yes.
Ms. Harris,
Yes.
Ms. Johnson Watts,
Yes.
Ms. Matheson,
Yes.
Mr. Miller,
Yes.
Mr. Thiel,
Yes.
Ms. Vega,
Yes.
9-0 passes.
Thank you. That brings us to the point in our meeting where we are at public comment for non-agenda items. You have any cards?
Yep. First one, Paz Simpson.
If you could please state your name and your city of address for record, you'll have 3 minutes.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
My name is Paz Simpson, 822 North 30th Street. I'm standing here not just an advocate for my children, but an advocate for other children. My child was suspended from school last Thursday after a knife was pulled on her at South Mountain Middle School. What's so sad about it is that I called the principal first. I reached out before the principal even told me that my daughter was in a fight. I've yet to get a phone call back until after I started emailing members of the school board. My daughter was then told, was never actually told how long her suspension was for. This is a child who was bullied on for a year, reported every day to her principal about the bullying. And finally, when she had enough, after being pushed off the bus and called a nigger, she let that little girl have it. This is a straight A student. Now, I understand when you differentiate between my son and my daughter. My son has issues. My son is a genius, but my son has issues. And even there, we have failed my son. Well, we'll deal with my daughter first, right? The school board, if I was a parent who didn't know how to advocate for my child, where would I be? We have a new school superintendent. I hope that you pay attention to this because I'm boots to the ground. I'm feet to the streets. I'm first face you see when you see a gang member. So if I wasn't a parent that knew how to advocate for my child, who went home and said, Daddy, I don't want to go to school no more. I now hate school. Right? That's terrible. Only to come to school, only to have my son lied on by a principal at Allen. A principal had the nerve to call me, set me up for a whole visit, only to find out he's not even my son's principal. Has no contact with my son, but gave me a whole report on how my son missed 17 classes, which isn't true. How many children go through these days without a real advocate, without somebody really that's going to do something for them? You know, it's important that as we have this new administration come in, that they look at some of the things that's going on. Because as we talk about South Mountain Middle School, my daughter's not the first victim. I removed my son from South Mountain Middle School 2 years ago. My son was the first 8th grader that was homeschooled. We were homeschooling before it was cool because the principal looked me in the face and told me a lie. because he told me a story that he couldn't defend. Because he didn't even know that as he was telling me the story, I pulled out a picture of my son getting the community service award with Miss Lisa standing behind him and Miss Phoebe standing behind him. I said, is this the same boy you lying on? As I removed my son from school and called Mr. Parker and told him why I had to do it. Right? Too many Black and brown children are going through these schools with no advocates. It's too many times that the teachers can say, hey, it's your word versus mine. It's too many times that things are going unchecked. And then he gave me the big Black excuse, right? My ex-wife's a big Black woman. So he gave me the big Black excuse. She was loud, she was rude. She said, get your shit together. Because you haven't told my daughter how long she's suspended for, but she's dressed and ready to go to school right now. And if her parents didn't call, she would have went to school and been embarrassed. So that's first, right? My kids, now all the kids, we have a rise in COVID going around in the schools, right? I know I've talked to Mr. Tom about we have something that we can put in the schools called Active Pure. I've done the research, I've sent it to a couple people. Because we've seen a rise, my daughter goes to South Mountain, there was 3 COVID cases. The little girl who actually came to school with the knife actually had to ride the school bus with the knife, right? So these kids aren't being protected in any way, and that's very disheartening, especially as a parent, because I'm one parent that's always available. I had to go to 2 school visits in one day at Allen High School because the first principal told a lie and said that he was my son's principal. Now, what if my child was a child that went home to an abusive home? Because we don't know what these kids go home to. He told me that my son missed 17 classes in the first 2 weeks of school, which wasn't true. What if that kid was going home to an abusive household because their parent was pulled out of work to be told a lie, only to be corrected by another principal later? Right? It's different when you're a parent like me who shows up, right? The new guy don't know me, but you will, right? I show up. I show up in your office. I show up in your face. Nancy, I show up in your email, right? I do not play when it comes to my kids. But I'm saying this not just for my kid, right? What about every other child that doesn't have a past? That doesn't have a dad that can stop in the middle of a day and just come to a meeting with a principal to tell you a lie, right? To come back for the other principal who to say, hey, I'm sorry that he lied. I don't even know why he called you. What about those kids? We are a school district where we have more latchkey kids. We have more kids coming home that don't have food to eat. We do not have time for your principals to tell us lies and not protect our children. We do not have time for you to sit back idly and then wait for my daughter, who was a straight A student, to have to physically put her hands on somebody after they pushed her and called her a nigger. And then we do not have time for the school district to hide that they pulled the knife on my daughter when I called you first. I called first. I told you. You didn't jump in until the second fight. The second fight when she had to defend her cousin, who's now kicked out of South Mountain because she doesn't live her family has moved, even though she's been in South Mountain from the beginning, her family's moved. And then the bully, right? Let's do the bully, right? You send it after I decide to email school board president, a couple other school board members. They send a truancy officer to my ex-wife's house to an address where she's never received, you've never got a return letter, and she's never moved from. Why is there a truancy officer at her house? Because I'm complaining, because I'm pushing buttons. Because as I talk to the truancy officer, she's like, no one even explained to me why I'm here. Have you gotten a return letter? No. Has anyone sent a letter home with the child in order for her to fill out something? No. But you want to send an officer to a sick woman's house. My ex-wife had just had a heart attack. No one knows and no one cares because you just decided I'm going to do things my way. And if you're going to do things your way, let's do it the right way for these babies. Let's start to protect our children. Let's start to ask more questions. And please, let's start to look into what these principals are doing. Because what's the worst thing in the world that can happen is a child to lose their spirit, to lose their confidence, to lose their voice, right? Because they don't have a parent that can advocate for them. So I'm asking our school board and our new superintendent to look into some things, ask some questions, because I'm about to flip this up. You hurt my baby, and she can't be hurt. I play a little differently when it's my boy. My daughter, yeah, I'm coming, because you sent her home broken after a knife was pulled on her. And now she still has 5 days of in-school suspension. Craziness. 5 days of in-school, well, she has 1 day left. She did 5 days of in-school suspension after a year, literally a year of reporting this bully, right? So I say that to say, first, let's do something about the bullying. Second, I know Tom has gotten the stuff about Active Pure. Let's protect our babies both in the school, on the school buses. Let's make sure that we actually have a budget, right? Let's do something to make sure that we protect our babies at all ways, not just some ways, not because it feels good, but because it's the right thing to do. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Simpson.
Walter Felton.
Please just state your name and your street address for the
Sure.
record. And you'll have 3 minutes.
Walter Felton, 115 College Drive. Attended school here in 3rd grade when it used to be Horn School. So I've been here all my life. And good evening, everyone. I am the Walt Felton, as I spoke before, of the president of the NAACP Allentown Lehigh Unit. Okay. That's before the NAAC was formed over 112 years ago, and we served just in the Allentown area 47 years. A lot has happened over that time, in them 47 years. We are here tonight to witness the board vote for the new superintendent. We appreciate the process and all that is involved. I'm here to let you know that we are here to work with you for the betterment of our children. We have attended school board meetings in the past to share our concerns and questions with the board. We have also welcomed past superintendents, administrators, staff, and board members to speak to our members and provide updates and discuss matters. We look forward to hearing the decision, which we fairly know this evening, and we're here to beginning the next phase of improving conditions for our families in Allentown. And I thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Felton.
Robert Smith.
My name is Robert E. Smith Jr. I live at 1060 East Gordon Street on the east side of Allentown, where there still doesn't have a middle school. I want to welcome Dr. Sanford, welcome you to Allentown. If I was on the board tonight, I would have voted for you as the person. But sir, please don't take this personally. I'm going to speak to the board now about your contract. This is the highest contract we've ever given a superintendent in the history of the school district. Thomas Parker was $185,000. I just heard, because it wasn't public information before the solicitor gave this information tonight, so it was not on the agenda, so I have the right to speak on it since that information was not given publicly. $230,000, reprehensible and unconscionable. We are the poorest district in the state, and we're given the highest salary in the state almost, compared to Pittsburgh maybe. We have hardworking taxpayers. We don't have a contract for the teachers yet. I see administrators getting bonuses, I just read in the agenda tonight. Bonuses to the principal that this gentleman before me was talking about. But the teachers don't have a step, don't have a raise, but we're giving administrators bonuses. We're giving the superintendent a $230,000 contract. It's reprehensible and unconscionable. And I'm speaking for all taxpayers, including the 90-year-olds on my street who still are holding on to their homes, the Hilda Sakas, the one that was I don't even want Lois Morel, who was working for this district for so many years, hanging on to her house. And I know two people just on my street. How many other senior citizens in this town are just hanging on to their homes? It's ridiculous. You wonder why we're in debt. You wonder why we're in debt. These consulting contracts, these millions of dollars wasted. And then your best resource, you don't pay anything. Shameful. That mediation deal was shameful. They deserve a raise, the teachers. And you know I'm the most fiscal person probably in this town. But that is ridiculous. This is going to come back to haunt us for years to come. The good teachers are going to jump at the chance to go to the Parklands, the Salisburys. Soon as there's an opening, they're gone. Of course, there's a lot of vacancies. Of course there is. If I'm a new teacher, where am I going to go? Am I going to go to Allentown where I have to worry about a contract every year or every 2 years? Why would I come to Allentown? I'll go to Parkland. We got to start thinking better, smarter. This is nothing personal against you, sir. You seem like a decent, wonderful person. I just think you're being paid too much. So I just want you to know. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. No further comments. Thank you very much. Is there any old business to come before the board? Any new business to come before the board?
Yes,
Sorry?
yes. Our new superintendent was the best of the best. We had many apply, and he was the best. He's going to give our school district what it needs. He's going to give a different perspective, but yet the same perspective, but yet one that will bring us into the 21st century. We have had years and years and years of systematic racism, institutionalized racism, and I'm sick of it. Sick of it. And so when you get the best, you got to pay the best. We'll find the money. We will find the money because we want somebody who's going to be able to stand up for our children, both in Harrisburg and in Allentown. He's going to go get the things that we need, as well as making sure that we have programs and that we have agendas, and we finally have a standardized curriculum. For years, we didn't have one. Years under other school board members. But now we're going to have one. So, Allentown, you know that I'm a biggest student advocate there is. Miss Phoebe will go everywhere and do anything for our students. And I'm going to stand behind this man.
Thank you, Ms. Harris.
You're welcome.
Any other new business? I have a motion to adjourn. Ms. Conover, is there a second?
Second.
Ms. Harris, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.